right, hello and welcome everybody to the first episode of 2022. Actually, episode number 26 of the Monitor Keeping Podcast. I'm here with Khai again. And yeah, we're going to get this thing kicking off. We took a little break for a while with the holidays and all the animal craziness. That being said, Khai, how are you?
Hey man, not too bad at all. Got a lot going on here as well. Just preparing, bracing myself for everything coming. I think we have Pamona coming in another 2 weeks roughly, and then all the stuff in between, making sure we get prepared and all that stuff like that. I essentially have babies that are coming and going a little bit. Still hatching out some stuff. I have like a Kimberly clutch left that's ready to hatch any day now, I think.
Nice.
And yeah, for the most part, just I thought I was gonna be able to save most of the stuff for the Pomona show, but honestly, everybody's been buying, I guess. So
Going too quick, huh?
yeah, currently all out again for another couple months, I guess.
A
Yeah,
horrible
man.
problem.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a Kimberly-less table. But you got a bunch of stuff going on as well, right?
Yeah, here and there. Let's see, just recently hatched out the sand monitors and the last clutch of Ackies. So I have a lot of Ackies to bring to Pomona. Oh, that's the other thing, of course, getting ready for Pomona. So get to go down there and hang out with Khai and the guys from Sim. So looking forward to that. Also looking forward just to meeting people out there. So if you're listening to this and you want to stop by, say hi, please do, introduce yourself, because I'm not going to know whose name and handle goes together. So be
Yeah,
patient with me as I
yeah.
catch up on things.
Just tell me your handle or the conversation that we had.
Right, right.
That's also another big one for me. I'm like, who are you? And then I remember a lot of conversations, and so more so than faces and names and all that stuff like that.
Same thing. I do the exact same thing, or
Yeah,
even what you're keeping rather than anything,
yeah,
because
yeah.
we
Or
all post
why you're
pictures of our
here,
animals. Yeah, yeah.
or why you're
Um,
here.
but I'm looking forward to it. I really want to meet a lot of people while I'm down there, and
Yeah.
talk reptiles, be in the element, feel it out. So it's
Last year, or not. I guess it's last year, but was the show in August, October-ish, right?
yeah,
Where me and Sim did that last the Anaheim show. Um, I had so much work that time, right? I think it's just the whole craziness, everybody getting back into the show. Not only was the show busy, but the amount of work that me and Lynn had to do on top of everything else. I didn't really get to mingle. And say what's up to people unless they came to the table, right? And then
yeah.
even that was pretty brief. So this year or this show, um honestly, I don't know what the stock is going to look like for grasshoppers yet, because I honestly am just eyeballing at the very best, right? So I won't really have a great number until the show. But this year I'm going to be doing a little bit more mingling, probably going around. I'm probably doing some inexpensive shopping too, where I can get like cheap bulbs and cheap cork and cheap
Yeah.
soil rather than paying full price and having it shipped, which I'm typically doing now. But it's good to see bulbs for $3 and blocks of dirt for a couple of dollars. So yeah, I typically stock up on those. I didn't last year, so that I was kicking myself in the foot when the show was over because I didn't have anything that I should have gotten. So I ended up having to buy all of it. And just have it shipped through Amazon or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be like me. Make sure you give yourself some time, even if it's an hour or two, to go take care of yourself. I'm kind of just tunnel vision and work, especially with the stuff at the table and all that stuff like that. So,
I'll give
but
you a
yeah,
break,
man.
Kai. You can tag out and go make the run.
Yeah, I
Go
know.
get everything you need.
See what great deals there are.
Right.
Not. Also, I'm really kicking myself in the foot because Nick Lillis came back to our booth. It was like, yo, this guy was just selling a pair of Pilbaras um,
Oh man.
for really cheap, really cheap. and that female ended up being gravid, I guess.
Oh
Um,
man.
so score all in all, where dang, I totally missed out on that one, but
Right.
it was great for Nick, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, but yeah, man, it's things like that. I wish I can capture or grasp before before the show. We have VIP and everything, but basically didn't even use it at all. You know, so just got. I mean, it was busy. It was me and Lynn had to redo the organization for the booth because we went from one or two tables to like five tables, right?
Oh
And
man.
then so that was all that took a lot of time, and then setting up for all that too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really tough, man. But for all the people that are listening now that may listen to this episode before the show, stop by, say what's up, and
Please do. Yep.
let us know who you are.
Yep. Yeah,
So yeah, man.
I'll be bringing the Ackies and some pythons down, the Brettles pythons.
Nice.
Maybe a few other odds and ends.
You're keeping all the Flavorufus for now.
Ye- I th- I'm pretty positive they're staying. One, to just kind of protect and insulate myself for the project going forward.
You
I've
should bring a
been
male for show,
Yeah, I
or you
know, but
should
it's
bring
just
a little baby for show, a little baby male for show.
I might bring them down for show, because they're awesome.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I'll work it out. I don't know. Maybe Alex is bringing some because I know they have some also.
yeah,
Um, so I'll try to talk to him, coordinate with him, so people can see, kind of, when you see it with your own eyes and hands on, it makes a big difference. And if you can see an adult male, it's just, I hate shipping adult animals, but sometimes it's worth it so people can see, okay, this is what an adult is, the size, the weight, the mass of that certain animal,
yeah,
so they
yeah.
get a
I
good idea of what they're dealing
just
with.
just like water monitors or something like that. They see the 10-inch, 12-inch baby and don't
Right.
realize in 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year, that little thing is going to be 4 feet long.
Right.
And that's just the first year.
Yep.
So yeah, same thing with most of these other things. They end up a pretty good size, and so accommodating space is a big key factor for the people that think down the road a little bit, where
Right.
it's not just an impulse buy; it's something that they're going to have to, like I would say, modify and reorganize your house. I just did a post where your kitchen and your living room and your dining room is overrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see
so
that.
so it's okay to fill all that space up with big monitor cages like myself right now.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I got baby cages in the kitchen, and I have the centralian in the kitchen, and that centralian, dude, my kitchen gets 60 degrees, maybe 50
Yeah.
on a cold night, right? And it's just sitting on top of a monitor cage. I know that bottom probably gets a good 80, which is perfect for that snake, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, man, it does great on cold residual heat.
Yep.
Um, without having, I thought it was going to have like respiratory issues or basically not eat at all. It's
Right.
on point. It's on point like every week.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
they're my favorite. They're just so tanky, they're so hardy.
Yeah.
Um, especially for lizard keepers, if you ever want to venture into a snake, I mean, the face of a carpet python, or you can't really say it's a carpet python, but still similar face, um, is just amazing. It looks like a dragon, and to have this snake in red, that
Yeah.
I was done. I was done. Love at first sight with these things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my favorite color combos on reptiles is the reddish and grayish tones.
Yep.
Got a great outcrop look.
Yep.
But yeah, man, back to monitors real quick. I ended up having my frustrations over the last, I guess I would say, November, end of November, December, and then now. Um, I recently just had a female lay, female Khai Island monitor lay in what was it, the fourth? Yeah, laid on the fourth. But I was worried about this animal for like months. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was doing. Seemingly it was developing follicles, right? It bred, laid once, and then I waited for it to recoup. man, it was bounced back like within a week or two. Had the male with it again, and then it laid another clutch, which was the one we're just waiting about now. Um,
Nice.
I was kind of iffy on it. I really am trying and testing new stuff out. Trying to figure out, oh man, why this female just laid? Why is she still so pudgy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So threw the male right back into her. Seemed like she had a quick bounce back without any issue, right? And so um, I then had to wait for a little while, and she kept on digging and digging and throwing soil and throwing soil. And then maybe at the middle or end of December, um, a couple weeks passed by, and I thought she was going to get egg bound because she just was relentless on digging, but not having the spot and not choosing the spot. Now, the reason why I'm kind of talking about this is because I went from nest building and nest boxes and just a little bin in the enclosure with a heat pad on it some way or another, right? And then now I have in floor cage nesting, so it's no
Yeah.
longer a bin; it's the whole section of a cage, and it's probably a good 3 by 3 by about 20 inches tall, and it's just filled all the way to the brim with moist sandy soil, more soil than sand. Sorry, more sand than soil, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's probably a good 70 to 80% sand, and only so much soil. The soil kind of holds it together, gives it that look, but the sand, when moisture is in it, it actually doesn't create like a mud, right?
Right.
And so it actually holds a little bit better, but it dries out pretty fast. So I have like leaf litter and pieces of plywood and stuff like that on top of it, just to kind of keep it more stable within temperature.
Yeah.
But man, adding moisture to that and everything like that, it was a little tricky at first. I kind of had just my one PVC sleeve. Now she would dig in and around that, but she wasn't digging that enough. So I'd say that PVC sleeve for large volumes just wasn't cutting it right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for small volumes, like something 1 by 1 or something 2 by 1, even no problem. But this was like 3 by 3 by something else, so it's almost triple the amount of soil available to heat up, and I ended up having to add another supplemental heat pad underneath the whole enclosure, basically right in between the dolly and the cage, and so that way it heated up the bottom as well.
Nice.
I've always went with bottom before, but this time I was going through side because I thought maybe it'd radiate a little bit better, but it seems to do a lot better in honing in their spot because they're going to go deep down. I
Yeah.
mean, 20 inches of soil and she'll still to the bottom within 30 seconds of digging, she's just right down to the bottom. I would go and check. I even came back on the third that nighttime when I was in San Diego, came back that night. And I was like, all right, I'm leaving to go back home to go hang out and basically get my mind off of the whole tunnel vision and hyper focus, right? And just to kind of less stress on myself. I'm no longer hovering over the lizards. When I came home, dug up the whole thing that she basically buried back in, to find nothing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had that conversation, and then
Yeah, I remember.
and then, and then just that the next morning, well, I'm not even really paying attention. I go to check, and there she is digging, and then laying right above that heat pad. Um, So that heat pad probably made that section right there a good 90, 88, 85 degrees, give or take. It's like she's like maybe not directly on the heat pad, but maybe off to the side a few inches.
Gotcha.
But right in that honed in area where I have the pad, and she dug right down to it. And it wasn't until I put that pad there until she felt comfortable. So you know, going with a lot of the new beginners that are looking to use in-floor soil heating. I've had to readjust or critique some people's setups when they ask me about, oh, how does this look? Honestly, it looks fine, but at the same time, you'll have to run your temperatures.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that come into play that I think some people aren't really paying attention to, and it is surface temperature that people aren't paying fully attention to.
Yeah.
Now, your ambient in your room may be one thing, but the cold floor and everything like that could be a disadvantage or advantage in some cases. Now, a disadvantage would be like you're expecting it to be 80 degrees and develop your humidity for you, but the cold floor snatches the heat from it, basically absorbing the heat,
Oh yeah.
um, and then making that soil volume with water and everything in it cold. And then it basically doesn't develop enough humidity, and or if they need a section for laying because the soil needs to be a good 80 degrees, mid 80 degrees, even 84, 86. That's what most monitors lay at. Most reptiles actually lay at that temperature. Um, and so, it's good for you to pay attention to that part. Some of the advantages, like myself, when it's really, really hot, cages end up being on the floor. When it's 110 here or 100 and however, or even 90 something degrees, my floors that are touching the cage bottoms um, basically make that bottom section 70 degrees, 80 degrees. But let's say it feels elevated off the floor and then just dealt with ambient heat and everything like that, heat gets to go in between the floor and the cage.
Hmm.
The cage actually gets a lot hotter. For my guys, they don't really like all of the heat. They need that 70 degrees as well as all the heat. So, for an advantage, most of my cages are now on the floor rather than being up onto dollies or lifted up or anything like that. And even right now, during wintertime, the cold floor is about 60 degrees. Um, Perfect, because once the cages are fully 80 degrees and the cold floor, the balance is almost perfect where the bottom of the cage is 70s and low 80s and stuff like that rather than always being hot. Um, this equates to my males having more fertility rather than being so burnt out and hot.
Yeah.
My males basically sleep at 70 degrees, sleep at 65, or they'll go to it rather than always wanting to be somewhere hot. So something beneficial, something to think about when you're doing in-floor cage nesting options. That's basically what I mean by that is just, the bottom of the cage rather than having it secured in a bin or something like that designated.
Yeah.
So it's good things to think about. Um, Adding a heat supplement, what heat cable, cane mats screwed to the side of the cages, or even on the bottom in this case. Um, Things like that will help you heat up the bottom section, and then overall balancing out the humidity. Now, all of these things kind of started off with just nesting options, right? But the whole base of your cage, if that soil area was heated, you wouldn't have to spray the cage as much because the humidity derived from that bottom naturally will rise and then create its own humidity balancing out the enclosure. But let's say if you had a dry bottom and then no supplemental heat at the base, and it's essentially dry, there is no moisture coming up. You will then have to add some fogger or mister or a humidifier some
Right.
way to balance out that thing. Now, for instance, Kimberly rock monitors, or I would say even my mangroves, me oversaturating it to over for the compensation of lack of humidity adds too much water and then adds too many wet surfaces, then leads to bumblefoot and infections and other stuff like that. While the cage should have been dry, surface temperatures. While I mean surfaces while they're climbing, and things like that. So when you're adding extra humidity or trying to add water, because most people equate humidity with the water. Obviously, the heat and water together make humidity, but it's not just always about spraying and utilizing just water. Okay, you end up with more wet surfaces than you need, and then that also is an offset balance as well. So for me, the whole cage bottom heated soil that's moist develops its own humidity, has a better balance, and then it keeps you from having to adjust so much by adding extra water. Now, some enclosures are going to need a little spike, but we get this question all the time. What's the best humidity percentage? And there isn't one. There's 10 choices really.
Yeah.
Uh, from when you're at 30 to 50%, right? And you utilizing the basking area, and that's where it's going to be the driest because obviously the lamps are drying it out. Naturally, when animals are basking in the wild, they're technically dehydrating slowly as well. So um, that area will be 30 to 50%. And then you have somewhere maybe mid range in your cage, those would be more like 60 and 70%. And then when you are into burrows, into nesting options, or deep down in soil or in some type of nook and cranny, those areas are typically a lot higher in humidity. And those are the options that you want. You don't want to just, I'd say, trouble yourself or stress yourself over making the whole enclosure 80% because that's kind of a lot
Right.
to have the whole enclosure that high all the time. And what I experienced myself is, for say the Kimberleys again, and even the mangroves as well. Anything over 80 to 90% humidity within the whole enclosure, they are more likely to end up with bumblefoot and or infections in the feet and tail or
Right.
things like that. They're just blisters, water blisters over waterlogged scales, basically catching too much dampness and then not able to dry. I had that a couple issues with a couple baby Kimberleys in this previous clutch where I I thought I had the right thing going, and I did at one point. But what happens was the humidity in some of our enclosures doesn't have a chance to escape somewhat, or
Yep.
so it doesn't get to dry, and so it just circulates the humidity, and then it catches onto the wall, goes right back down, and then saturates the soil.
Yep.
That's what naturally what happens in your enclosure if it doesn't get to vent well enough. And some of these enclosures that I have vent very little, other than the little gap in between the glass or maybe some seams that you can peer through. But for the most part, it's escape proof because
Yeah.
Kimberly's are escape artists. So I have a little latch and some of the seams breathe, but that's not enough. Maybe for a little bit of air transfer is fine, but not enough to release humidity. So I've had to switch a couple cages around. Now those Kimberleys are sitting in a Exoterra that has glass fronts and somewhat of a vented top. I've kind of modified it a little bit, but for the most part, it's only 60% humidity now. And
Right.
then it's drier a little bit. And then when I spritz it, let's say if I needed to kind of just do a quick jolts, nothing crazy where you're going all over the cage. You're just in there, and then you're out. That's it. That draws the humidity up a little bit, and then it evaporates. That's what you want in your enclosures as well. So sometimes the dense humidity is also bad for some cases. Now, um, so yeah, man, I don't know what you've experienced, but so far my headaches
I'm
the
going
last.
through all of that right now. So with over the late summer into fall, putting that loft back together, and well, it's mainly fall, September, and getting it ready for the Indonesian imports. Now I'm really happy with how it turned out up there, putting this basically little greenhouse loft in there, and I'm on the schedule where if I fill up the humidifier and I spray every 2 to 3 days, like a light topical spraying, it keeps the humidity up there pretty good. Even if we hit the mid 30s here at night, if I can get that room heated up and the humidity up during the day, it holds through the next day. If I start slacking, I find out that it starts getting really dry and a lot cooler in there. It'll drop 10, 15 degrees in there real quick. And it's hard to then get that. It's almost like I got to jog in place and use my own body heat, start moving around up there, and it actually does bring up the temperature. Um, or add in different bulbs to help bring up that temperature just in that room up there. So while this is going on and I'm figuring this out, I have the rest of the warehouse that the humidity and ambient temperature is dramatically lower because I've now separated these rooms. So any shared heat or shared humidity that I used to have in the past is now gone because I have that walled off or plastic wall basically. So it's trapping it up there, which is great. But my baby setups, um, they have, like you said, very limited ventilation, almost none at all. And there's instances where they work great, but with separating this room, and so the humidity and the ambient is a lot lower. It's just like you said, with little ventilation because of the heat and the moisture in the dirt, the humidity is just building, or the water is just building up on the sides and on the lid of the baby setups. So now this is just keeping everything wet to the surface. And it was not a problem in most of the cages. There was one baby setup that was on the second shelf, the way I have it on a rack, um, that was above another baby setup that I did not have lights on. And because of that, just that little boost of radiating heat from that light setup, um, it changed the temperatures in this one enclosure. So the honest truth is, because of that, I started having some toe problems and tail problems, and I kicked myself in the butt because I feel like, yes, I know this, but as I'm making these changes to the warehouse, I have to take every little thing. It's constantly learning. Take every little thing into consideration as
Yeah,
far as
the
um,
balance.
yeah, it's a fine balance, you know. Just because that lower bin didn't have its lights on, it changed the temperatures for the bin up above it. And I'm running this whole level like they're the same, but they weren't because the other bins did have cages beneath them that boosted up the temperature underneath them. Not as much condensation on everything, and so yeah, it's still learning as I make adjustments. And like you said about the heated nest bins or whole cage nesting that's heated, um, I'm kind of right there right now with some things, but where I'm kind of going back and forth on my decision making is because I can add. Is that your cat making a guest appearance again?
Yeah.
On cue. Uh,
Bell,
everybody's cat.
I'm
Kai,
recording.
or Kai's cat, everybody. That cat had
Yeah.
an attitude too.
She's a
um,
bitch.
but um, with the whole cage nesting and heating that, I could go ahead and drop some cash and try to get the cane heat mats or some other heat mat in all these cages, or should I just wait a couple months till the temperatures naturally start coming up, because I think they'll balance out to where I want them going into spring, and then it'll be more of a job to cool them
Yeah.
off in the summer. So for me, are these just like 2-3 month heat mats that I'll be using only to
Yeah.
remain off for the rest of the year?
Yeah. For me,
So
it really just depends. So right now they're on, obviously. Um, but what I do is I start off when it starts to get warmer. I turn off the other supplemental heat bulbs.
mhm,
Have that one or two basking lamp, and then the heat mat actually balances out the cold side, and so it kind of gives a good gradient still when that's on. But then I'll end up turning it off like summertime because the whole room will just be really hot. Even the floor will be 75, 80 degrees. So I'll have
mm,
to really play it by ear. If the area that it sits on is just so cold, then obviously I won't be using it. But
right.
yeah, so it's pretty tough because what I have to do is just measure temperatures every day.
Right.
Um, I went through and did a bunch of nest bin checks because a lot of my animals are throwing me off this year. Not
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm throwing myself off a little bit. I think anybody that's been paying attention to what I'm doing, I'm trying to do southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere on different animals, to see what works the best. And really, it's just cooling them down in the summertime, where it seems like a hard feat to do, but I only have one lamp on rather than having the normal setup because it's summertime. It's already hot around here. Um, And so what I've done is I just adding man sorry, brain fart just a little bit. Uh, what was I saying?
Northern Summit
Oh yeah.
Hemisphere.
So summertime, I'm really I was doing the normal before. A couple years before this, I'd been doing normal things, but this summer kept it pretty simple. And then instead of adding a ton of food like I would normally do, they were kept very lean this summer. And then when it started to get into the rainy season and things like that, because it's been raining a lot here and a lot more fog and a lot more mist, basically creating more humidity naturally in the air. Um, my animals have been breeding like crazy, most of them.
Nice.
The stuff that's been breeding and was doing stuff in the summertime has taken a little chill pill. So I haven't been doing a ton with them. But now that they had their cooling from, I'd say, October, November, December, they're basically getting back into gear now. So my Kimberleys are into gear now, and I'm just going through their bottoms of their cages, making sure that the soil has been turned, saturated with enough water to hold burrows that they like. There is a nest bin, but there's also an ample amount of soil in there, so
Hmm.
that way I can get this female to not reabsorb if she doesn't like the nesting option. Now I've seen her nest before. She always takes forever though, so maybe I'm hoping to see something where she's done within a night. Sometimes she's down for 3 days.
Oh wow.
So yeah, maybe she doesn't like it. She's digging around and around. And just going through, doing a little finger test, kind of digging way deep down, making sure the soil says 84, 82, even 88 degrees in some spot is okay. But yeah, that's where I'm double checking right now. And then I have animals that have been eating a ton these last few months. Now I'm going to be giving them their relaxed time. So animals that I've been pounding for what I'd say September, October, November, and even part of December. I was feeding them really well to see what they do. They ended up just getting fat. So yeah, just gonna be now shutting them down. I've already refused to feed them so much. Went from everyday feedings roughly to now only 2 to 3 times a week. And then once we get into, I'd say, mid January or almost end of January, I'll only feed them once a week until April, March or April,
Yeah.
and just do maintenance feeding. See how if I can get it to get them going. But man, it seems like a lot of animals have been responding more better to the summer cool down rather than the winter cool down.
Hmm.
Um, so that means they like the southern hemisphere uh, get up rather than the northern hemisphere, which a lot of us are more used to doing. And that northern hemisphere one is when we're cooling them down, colder months of the year, and bring them up. Either some people are bringing them up early around now, some people wait until February and March to bring them up. Most snake people are bringing them up now because they only need a couple months.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's something something to think about. Not everybody is doing this. A lot of people just think that they can just heat and feed all these monitors and they'll just all breed. It's not the case. If that were the case, then we'd be breeding every species that we have. But
Right.
yeah, it's not the case for some of these animals that are just proving to be more difficult.
Right.
Um, so
I
some
am
if you guys
seeing
are listening to this and you're not having the best of luck, try something new.
I am seeing some activity between certain animals. So the for my own purposes right now, I have some stuff upstairs, but I moved the Kims upstairs along with the Indonesian dwarfs. So I'm starting to see some breeding action. It's easy with the Kims because they stay out and kind of let me peek in. Um, the Indonesian dwarfs, they all scatter, so it's a little tougher to catch them. I have to sneak in the room almost just to look in their
Yeah,
cages. Um, so I'm hoping some things from them. My sand monitor female, she's showing some signs I've seen before, but we'll see how it goes. Um, So, but for most things, it's in that position that I was talking about where the cage, the nesting sites are pretty cold at the moment. So, me, they usually show me that I'm wrong somehow, but
Yeah.
I expect them to start in the spring more. So I don't mind because I kind of talked about giving them a break, and they're in that position now where they're basically getting a seasonal break. So int- for the listeners, Kai's over there fighting with a cat. So I think the cat's winning. Um,
Yeah, the cat wants attention, man. It's just weird. I'm recording right now. What do you want from me? Ugh, it's
for all
my.
the cat people
Never,
out there, they're like, yeah, that's a cat.
I never knew I'd be a cat person until ballerina here, man.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
actually.
on a side note, while we're going on a tangent about things, the Earl Grey macaroons, I kind of I'm not going to ask directly, but I mean, if they showed up at the show for someone to try, I would not be opposed to it.
Yeah,
I've seen
man.
some,
Go to some Korean market or H Mart or something like that,
yeah,
and bring us 2 dozen Earl Grey macaroons.
yeah, yeah.
Nah,
Those look
those
so
are
good.
yeah,
Uh,
those are my thing.
yeah, I want to try. I've never tried them, so I'm looking forward to maybe having one. But I guess back to the reptiles. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Oh, I did get a couple of things recently. So I got one of those little cable camera lights. It's got
Oh
like
yeah,
15 foot of cable, and
yeah,
so if anything gets stuck in, and like I think they're stuck in the freezer or stuck in a wall somewhere, I can
yeah,
actually now snake that in there and take a look around. So it's more like um, for my own
dude.
purposes, ease of
mm,
mind.
Some of my customers need that. I swear, half of my customers end up losing the mangrove monitors that I send them the
Yeah.
very first day. The very first day, like they're because they play dumb, and
Yeah, they're
most of
not.
the new keepers are kind of unaware of that. They think, oh, it's nice, it's just chilling, right? But more so, it's just frantically thinking about how it's going to escape you, but it's playing possum, right?
Oh yeah.
And then they take off on all these people and get lost the first week of of of, of their care. I have a few random people that are just just followers and in the mangrove world, and they're like, hey, how do I find my monitor lizard? I don't know. You just look everywhere, everywhere,
Yeah.
like everywhere. Behind you can have this. I've had one time a monitor scale the wall, right, and it's
Yeah.
the wall isn't really scalable, but there's some texture that they can kind of grasp on, right?
Right.
And they ended up behind the clock, and that clock, I was walking by the clock, and it was just offset from the wall just a little bit, and I realized there's a fucking lizard back there. So the people that are losing monitors, any species, man, I find them in the weirdest places.
Yeah.
In my clothes, laundry. If you have a couch that has seams and creases in between that,
Oh yeah.
refrigerators. Yeah, I've had to dismantle a couple refrigerators before just because I thought it was in there,
Right.
and it wasn't actually. But RIP to those refrigerators. But yeah, man.
That's why I think it was like $70 on Amazon. It comes with like a little screen you can see that is connected to it, so you just charge it and use it, and it's really peace of mind. And it honestly, it's because I've had a few babies get out before. So
Yeah.
I've had some Tristis get out. I've had some Ackies get out. But nothing. I've been able to fix those issues. Nothing has gotten out more than those baby Dorianus, and that's the truth. And so it's
Wow.
gotten to the point where if they haven't gotten out in a little bit now, but if they do get out, I almost stop looking for them because at
They
some
appear.
point, yeah, at some point, like I look in general places and I always look up. I never look down for them because every time I find them, they're up something. Um, and that doesn't hold true for everything. I would say like if an Aki gets loose, I always look down. Um, but these Dorianus have taught me they like the height. They like to be up and above. Um, so yeah, it's just peace of mind, little tool that I'm going to use going forward in the future. But also, I'm I've locked into a few key places that I always worry about. The ones that I know if something got in there, that's like moving heaven and earth to get behind, or
Yeah.
so
So
I'm trying.
it's better to be sure about the move, the actual that
Right,
like helps you calculate it better, right? Rather than just
right.
being, oh, I'm gonna break my back trying to move all this stuff, and then it's not even there.
Yep. Couple cans
Yeah.
of some great stuff foam and that camera, and I'm going to limit their accessibility, or at least limit my worry down quite a bit. The other thing I got was this
Mm.
humidifier head thing that you can drop into like a 5 gallon water jug, and so I can just get a regular water jug now, fill it up with water, and it sits right on top, and it's like a room humidifier. But I can also drop it on like a 50-gallon drum, water drum, or even one of those 250-gallon agricultural water drums with that opening. It's kind of a universal fit, and so I'm trying to really prepare myself for these different situations, and I'm realizing that some of the stuff I'm not going to use all the time. So in the summer, the oh, what is that thing called? The portable swamp cooler, basically. It provides plenty of humidity just because of its design, and the ambient in the late spring into summer is really high, so it traps that humidity pretty well in the room. So this one is mainly for the winter, and I'm going to be using it in conjunction with a space heater, and it's to bring the ambient up a little bit when I want to. Now everything's kind of getting cooled, like I said, but bring that ambient up when I want to, and to get a little bit more humidity into the room. So yeah, different fun toys I'm going to be messing with, see what works and what doesn't work, see what I can do better. Um, like we said, the heating nest boxes, I think I'm going to hold off for this year, and just wait till I get into spring, see how things change, and that might just be part of a natural routine where I'm not expecting really any kind of breeding or egg laying for a certain amount of
Yeah.
months.
Mine's kind of, I probably set myself up for this, but yeah, my animals are just, they're just going, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, and some of them are together, some of them I have to put together as males are rotating around. Um, but yeah, they're showing a lot of interest. So I'm having mangroves breed right now. The Kylan are currently all separated, except for one pair, but they're not doing a whole lot. I think that female's still a little bit immature. But yeah, man, I'm having things breed right now, so I kind of have to just keep everything
Right.
well, yeah, everything warm, just in case. And then even then, like I have animals that don't ever look gravid. Maybe once in a while, but they'll just they look a little pudgy, and so I just think, oh, that's just a little fat, or maybe
Yeah.
because I fed them, But no, they're hanging on to it. Like I had that girl, that Kylan female that just laid her third clutch within, I'd say, 5 6 months, give or take, right? Maybe less than that, but they are they hold themselves so well. They
Hmm.
don't look really pudgy. They don't look too overbearing with like eggs or anything like that. And then when you're going and looking at them, they look fine. They don't ever look. And then all of a sudden they're digging and laying. So yeah, I always have to try to be prepared. Um, and then there's that random, like I have a random Kimberly female that is always on the go, and so I'm kind of scared that like let's say if I didn't have the nesting option available, even when she had infertils, I she can possibly die or hold on to those. But
Yeah.
if people are sure that their animals aren't gravid or there's no breeding going on, maybe you can let the cage chill out a little bit. For me, I always still have the option even when they're chilling. It's just I just let the options drop a lot lower.
Yeah.
So into the 60s for the mangroves, and then into the 50s for the Kimberleys. And they still have a section of the enclosure that they can get to, that they can lay and nest in, and that's still always 80 degrees. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah. So yeah, man, it's always a balancing act a little bit with some of these, with all these different lizards and species. And I have so many females in the house. If I can count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think like a good 11 females,
Woohoo.
all different. From Kimberleys to Coles monitors to different types of mangrove monitors. Yeah, there's quite a few. Um, they're not on the same set schedule at all.
Yeah.
I think a couple of them kind of are because of where they are and how I've been working at them. But yeah, there's a mangrove female right now that just bred. I've been posting about it. And they're into day 3 now. Now this female, I thought she was already gravid, but I dropped in Jody 3 4 days ago, and it probably took him a good day to get his bearings, just in that enclosure.
Hmm.
But once he was over that, he was locking up, and he was doing more than just dominant stuff. He was actually courting and breeding and stuff like that. And she was super receptive. She would just lay there and just arch her tail up. Then
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay. And so trying to understand the whole breeding thing a little better. I say this all the time, but people may see a lot of the success that I've been having. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. Okay, I'm just able to prepare and have a lot of precautions set up already, so I'm aware of stuff, and those I know what I'm doing. I
Right.
honestly know to have the nest bin, but to know when to add a male, man, that part's hard. That
Right.
it can go bad, it can go great. I'm taking my chances every single time that I think, okay, this female is, looks really big. Is she gravid? If she's already gravid, throwing a male in with her can just offset her, and she'll just get egg bound because she won't lay. But sometimes I've added a male, and bam, they're locking up, and it's a perfect clutch or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to see. I still can't. I know what I'm trying to look for in the ultrasound machine that I have, right? To look for
Right.
follicles and stuff, but to hold the lizard, to hold the freaking the wand that you're adding petroleum jelly to and stuff like that, and then to actually press the buttons, man, you need 3 sets of hands.
It's
One set
good
of
to know
hands
though.
to, yeah, one set of hands to hold the lizard in still, and then the other one to actually utilize the probe and add petroleum jelly back onto it just in case. So that you need to have a set of hands for that, and then to click at all the buttons to look closer or to go to this screen and that screen, you have to put everything down and then start clicking, which is actually hinders your process of trying to focus and look at what you're trying to grasp. Um, so yeah, I honestly am having a tough time with the ultrasound a little bit. I also think I have to get better probes, or more so a better probe reader, because I have one that's I think meant for hamsters and stuff. I need to get one that's like meant for dogs.
Yeah.
Meant for good sized dogs or small cattle. Then that way the picture can be better, because I the small probe that I have now is so small. It's like a big Sharpie marker. It's not
Hmm.
really much. So
Yeah.
when you're probably looking at it, it's not really looking at a ton itself. So if I had something a little wider, probably a good 3 to 4 inches wide, I can then scan the whole belly and then maybe get a better look. It's still a lot of training and a lot of um, self self self-taught stuff.
Yeah.
And most people, it's not that they're not willing to share information or something like that, it's that there's not many people doing it this way. I think with snakes, yes, and that's where I'm grasping from some information on. But Nerd is the only guys that I know that have been ultrasounding their big monitors and
Yeah.
will show something to show with measurements of the um of the follicles. And so, I think it has to be, I don't know, anywhere from 12 to 18 millimeters or something like that, the follicle itself. In the size species that I have, I think in big like water monitors, the follicles are like 20 millimeters or something like that. Um, and Yeah, I'm just trying to get a better grasp of what's going on with all my stuff. It's not that easy to do with just my pair of hands, and Lynn isn't always available, so
Right.
it's like she's
This is
there, she's available quite a bit, but not all the time.
this is actually really good stuff to know for anybody that's thinking about getting a ultrasound machine to use with their animals. Let Kai jump through the hoops first and
Yeah,
tell you what you need, or
yeah,
to
it's
add this
tricky.
information out there.
Before you spend out $2,000, let me just fail first for you, and then we can go to it together. But yeah, it's something worth trying. If you happen to have veterinary training and you happen to be listening to this and you are familiar with that, um, please message me and help me out,
Yeah.
because sometimes I don't know what I'm looking at, and I think I see little circular things that are in a row formed, but then the picture is lost and I can't get it again. So um, now I'm still, although I was hoping that the ultrasound would make it a lot easier for me to read when females are okay to breed, and then I can just drop in a male. I'm still, I'd say, for the most part, going with behavior and the looks of the females.
Right.
That's where you get the visuals, you get behavior, and you're kind of more used to that rather than looking at some electronic screen to tell you. Not that the ultrasound is useless, because it actually can be useful. Um, I am still going by just behavior. So it's the tricky part still of, okay, am I able to just throw in the mail and hope for the best? Or should I wait a little bit longer? And sometimes that very first hour tells me right then and there if they're too rambunctious. The female's attacking the male. She's kind of tail twitching. It's probably not the best time. But when they're doing the little tongue flicks back and forth, very very slight head jerks, the female's not twitching her tail back and forth, and then she raises her tail and she kind of just lays there like a slut. Um, you know, she's they're ready,
You're
and
right.
so that's for me. It's a tough one, and then I have animals that are just so defensive and so aggressive that anything in their enclosure is a turn off, unless one of them, and it's typically the males that I have, are easygoing. They don't respond in aggression. They don't
Yeah.
respond in the defensive. And even if the female, because I throw 90% of the time, I'm throwing a male into the female's enclosure that she's already honed in onto. And so if worst come to worst, the female takes a little nip at the male and he doesn't respond in anger, that it usually ends pretty well, because the female has asserted herself a little bit, but he hasn't obviously gone in and reciprocated in aggression. So um, those are good signs that you want to have in a male breeder. I also have very very aggressive males or very defensive males, and just his cage, uh, her into his cage, him into her cage. It's really tough. And
Yeah.
even when I think I'm moving forward, I have stuff happen like the other day, where another one of my stressful situations where I had a male basically bite the tip of three, not just the very tip, but like 3 inches off of a female's
Oof.
tail. And yeah, so I was pretty upset about that a little bit, but I'm just gonna chalk it up as a little loss. The female's not dead. So we obviously have many more chances to go to, and she's kind of already bounced back from that by eating and stuff like that. So not too much of a headache, and the wound is somewhat looking like it's healing without any infection or any type of bad looks on it or at all. It looks like it's drying up and healing okay. Um, and I have antibiotics just in case. So
Good stuff.
yeah, pretty stressful breeding time, and
Yeah, there can be some of that I've noticed. Well, I'll get into that on another episode, but some of the bigger guys, the what they can do, even the little guys can do some serious damage to each other. But seems like that when you take that next step up to the medium-sized monitors, they're just
yeah,
a little more aggressive, or I don't know what it is, a little more mass there just naturally. Um,
especially the wild caught indica stuff, man. It's
yeah. Yeah, them teeth are scary, man. Tree monitor teeth are scary. You ever
yeah,
look inside the mouth of some of these things? The not that I want to get bit by ackies or even sand monitors, um, but I look at the size of the teeth, and the it seems like the tree monitors have larger teeth than pretty much anything else in the collection besides the Dorianus. Um,
yeah.
so I haven't
I
been
would
bit
think
by
their
them
teeth,
yet, but I
I
don't
would
want
think
to.
their teeth need to be on point. They need to be sharp,
Right,
because picture having to catch prey, you know, hundreds of feet up,
right,
and not only are your nails equipped to to grasp onto the branches and without falling, but man, you need to be able to grab whatever you're gonna eat, and even if it's nipping it at the very tip of its wing and hanging on to it, or some frog or some little lizard that's a very quick, these tree monitors have to be fast.
yeah,
Their teeth have to be so sharp that nothing can escape, and they can grab onto the tiny bit of animal that is as it's fleeing.
right. But then
So
I also
I
think
would think
about,
they have to be good.
there's the size of the teeth, but then I also look at some of the heads of like these the albigs, and to get bit by something like an adult
Yeah,
black throat monitor would,
you know what? Their
uh
their teeth are designed way differently.
right.
So if you were to go into the skull of a savanna and the black throats and white throats, the back teeth are kind of like molars. They're
Yeah,
blunt.
like
They're not.
crushing type of
Yeah, they're
force.
for crushing snails and other, I don't know, the word is arthropods or other bugs,
Right. Hard shell
invert
bugs.
yeah, other invertebrates that are hard shelled, snails, millipedes, things like that. That's what their teeth are kind of designed for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's I would rather get bit by a big black throat than a little tree monitor.
Yeah, unless it has enough, pressure to really break
Yeah,
some bones or something. I don't know.
true.
Not that I'm going to find out anytime soon, but if there's anybody out there, let us know if you've been bit by, some of these larger lizards. Uh, tell us which was worse. We'd love to
Yeah,
hear. Um, all right. I think we're just, getting into the first episode of the year here, but anything new you got coming up for 2022? Anything you're looking to
me.
do, or yeah.
Uh, so I do have Khai Island. I have a Khai Island clutch that is fertile in the incubator. Um, sorry, it's two different clutches, but one for sure is fertile with veins, probably about 3 to 4 months in now, and then one more clutch that is just from the 4th of January. So they've only been in the incubator for a few days, and we'll see what that brings us. The the male to the second clutch, he's only about a year and a half old, coming on 2 years in the next few months. But for the most part, I think he's not fertile yet. I think most of my indicas aren't really shooting out much until they're about 3 years old, both males and females. So, like Jody is now 3, and he wasn't doing much for the first year or two at all, as far as Breeding, a ton of breeding, but fertility, almost
Yeah.
zilch. And so um, he wasn't really hooking up. And even if he was breeding a lot and everything flowed, she laid within 20 to 30 days. The eggs weren't so great, but this last year, his eggs, whatever clutch that he landed on, basically was fertile. So I'm gonna wait for that male, the other male, a little bit more. That's young and up and coming, but he's already got his um he's got his he's got his hemipenes into a few different of the females now, and he's kind of used to all of them, training and learning, and he's actually pretty good with just about all the girls as long as he's cool. Sometimes he's like Lauren will bite the hell out of them, right? At first she bites anything until they've squared away their differences. Um, but most of the other females are really easygoing, and yeah, man, I'm hoping for 2022 to look more promising for this project. I did have not Lauren, but I had the baby blue girl, which is another Car Island female, um, with the very very mean one, right? And they were they were for pretty short. And when I pulled them out after they were fighting, um, you know, she ended up laying. So I'm hoping that that's from a good breeding, and if not, if it's parthenogenic, that's fine too. I need another pure male to breed, and
Right.
then I don't have to worry about rehousing the very very mean one. Um, Even though, because selling him would be a loss to the project just because of he's the only one in the country right now that I know of.
Yeah.
So if I can make another one, whether it's through parthenogenic or somewhat of a loose breeding, then I'll have another male. Um, but if not, then kind of assed out until I mix some more.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's a little tough one. I think overall, I've done a switch from nest bins to in-floor cage heating because I wanted to give my females more options and somewhat better options. It is a lot more work because everything is not just honed in on one bin. So I have to
Right.
dig all of the whole cage, all 8 foot of the cage, rather than just looking for, you know, in a 2x2 nest bin, which is a lot easier. I still do have nest bins for some of the smaller enclosures or some of the more shallow ones that can't support 2 foot of soil. But for most of my big cages, there's in-floor heating now. Kimberleys have in-floor heating and in-floor nesting. Um, let's see here. And overall, just to make sure that I'm keeping up with their husbandry and stuff like that, there's a lot of changes, but all for the better for the most part. Just trying stuff out. I think I talked to you about the whole female. If she doesn't tap into the in-floor cage heating and nesting, then I was just gonna take it all out and
Right.
um and just go back to the nest bin because she's nested in that without a problem before. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Like they'll go into the nest bin and bam, be done in a day. But when it's that much volume of soil, they're digging a lot more. Now, is it bad? If is it necessarily bad? No, I think it's just they got more to look for. Um, it is a headache though, man. I gotta like go in there and dig up like so much soil. Sometimes it's like a job in itself. I gotta hire somebody else just to do it. But it's like having to turn it and you're not even
Yep.
done. You
Yep.
got to turn it, add water to it, turn it some more, get the dry stuff moist, get the moist stuff less wet, and just kind of have it balanced out a little bit. Throw leaves litter back on. Then when I want to go dig and I don't want to have to transfer the leaves in through all the soil, I kind of sweep the leaves over to a corner, start digging, and then pile everything back and then push the leaves back over the surface.
Yep.
So it is a little bit more work for me, but I think the animals are going to be benefiting a little bit more from it rather than just having a nest bin. Um, it is tricky though, for sure. What about you, man?
I just can't help but think your tools for monitor keeping are going to start looking more like landscaping tools than they are reptile tools. You
Yeah,
got your
yeah.
shovels, your rakes, your trash
I don't
bags.
even use any of those. I still use my hand, and I use
Yeah,
a freaking 24-ounce cup to scoop out soil. And then even
yeah,
when that's a headache, right? Because obviously 6 to 8 foot of soil, that's the volume wise, and then it's
right.
a foot 2 foot deep in areas. That little cup's not doing a lot. So I have a little circular vegetable wash bin, right? That you see they sell them at like Asian markets. I just take those and I fill it up with a bunch of dirt that I've dug already, and
Yep,
take that out, shove that into a different bin, and then go and dig up more dirt that I've already dug up. That's obviously eggless, right? And then I shove that into another bin. So it's a lot of transferring
yeah,
soils, just to look for eggs. And sometimes I feel like I can be careless. I try to be gentle, but you want to push through that soil as fast as you can without damaging eggs. So I kind of like,
right.
I'm sweeping, and then if I see or feel you know the the eggs, then I'll kind of ease up on my pressure and how fast I'm doing it. But I
Or when you
think,
get to that last little bit of dirt, and
yeah, yeah, then I'm like scraping the edges. Like, all right,
right.
sometimes they lay against the edge in the corner, so I'm gonna
Yep,
just run my finger through that, and if nothing's there, nothing's there. And
yep,
I've even I told myself sometimes, like, I think she laid. She
right.
looks like she laid, so let's dig it. And then there's nothing, and then I tell myself 10 minutes later, she fucking laid. Go dig it again, and there's nothing. There's nothing
Yep,
there.
yep. I've done that, man. Especially the walking cages. It's moving
Yeah,
dirt so
yeah.
carefully one corner, then do the next corner. Then I'm kind of like moving very carefully on my hands and knees, digging in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it's
um,
it's it's tough.
but for this year, I took on a lot last year in 2021. I wasn't necessarily planning on, but kind of came around. So um, I'm just sticking with it, putting in the work, getting the warehouse dialed in, making sure everybody's good and healthy. It's the focus. I think will be continuing the species that I've been able to be successful with, which is the Australian species I keep, and then I've already kind of been going through the motions with the Savannah monitors, so hopefully I'll see some action from them this spring. Um,
Oh, nice. So you got a lot of brewing stuff that's just waiting,
right,
right?
right. So I'm hoping to see the hard work pay off with some of these species. Now, there's of course raising the Dorianus, seeing kind of what I have. Um, more certain, and then the tree monitors, and then still at the top of the list is the peacocks and the Timors, really locking them down. And then I just had a conversation with Kevin about the Similis and trying to also figure those out. So the whole complex we're really trying to lock in, figure out. um
Yeah,
I'm
John's
treating
finally keeping his similars too. The
right,
ones that he's got, he's finally keeping those.
which I think is great. I hope he gets some action. I think there might be a few things missing. Now I've had some talks with Ryan McVeigh. He's now had a couple clutches of peacocks. So there's some interesting stuff he's doing. Good conversations. Maybe we'll have him on again this year, talk about some things. But just yeah, it's putting in the work and seeing things pay off, and then adding in things that make my life easier. So I'm still working around some automated stuff that I'm trying to do, stuff that I've kind of talked about in this episode that help me regulate humidity and temperature to where I want it in the warehouse. But yeah, if I am able to do some things from my phone, then I can access the warehouse as far as cameras and controls from my cell phone when I'm away or at my regular job. That would be amazing and really helpful for me. So yeah, trying to lock those things down, and yeah, we'll see where it goes, man. I'm just looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Pomona again, meeting people down there, hanging out, and having a good
Yeah,
time.
I'm
So
looking forward to hanging out, man. It's been a lot of work lately. It's good to do some other stuff. I mean, it's still
yeah,
all reptile. It's still work and it's still all reptile related, but it's good to do something a little bit different.
right. All right,
Yeah.
so I think that wraps it up. I'm not sure we mentioned it, but we had a recorded episode with Matt Kosman, Reptile Revolt, and we had to scrap the whole thing and lost it. So definitely want to get Matt back on. It was a really good conversation. I'm sorry we lost it, but I have a really good feeling also that it's going to be another great episode once we get it dialed in and all the kinks worked out with recording issues. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that. And Matt, if you're
Uh,
listening, anytime, man.
we're also looking for new people to bring on. Doesn't have to be beginner. Essentially, it could be you um, not able to figure something out with the current breeding project you got going on, or maybe you just purchased a Nile or mangrove or savanna or even a water monitor or something like that, where there's just not a lot of info you're having luck finding. We're still open to do questionnaires and stuff like that, where you're coming on and just asking us, and we'll help you out best as we can, and then hopefully this will be able to um, translate to the other new keeper that are in your shoes. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you want to take a little time, good hour and a half in the hot seat and ask some questions
Right.
and and help you figure stuff out. I do this personally on on myself already with the mangrove monitors and other species. Um, but yeah, we would like to get some fresh blood, new people in, and get your questions answered. So if you happen to be in need of any help or anything like that, shoot one of us a message and we can get you on.
That'd be great. You know, Kai, on that thought, actually, if we kind of put something together, at least part of an episode where even before Pomona, maybe we talk about, you know, okay, you're in a position where you impulse bought something, you bought that, $60 Nile monitor. Now what? Because honestly, it happens. We try to get out in front of it, tell people be prepared, do your homework. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. Okay, that's the reality, and it's probably been the reality for most of us at one point in time. And 2020 hindsight, all that, maybe throwing something together where if we're asked, we can say, hey, refer back. We just had an episode where we went over some of this stuff. Here's what's going to up your chances and up your animal's chances of, a good life between both of you. So I don't know. We'll talk about that more off camera or off the episode. But yeah, I guess to wrap it up, we just want to let you guys know we are brought to you by the Morelia Python Radio Network. And everything that you could ever want to know about reptiles um, is in this day and age probably out there unless it's a new species or something that somebody's just breaking ground on. But there are a lot of different podcasts, and Morelia Python Radio has about, I think, 10 or 12 different podcasts now covering a wide range of topics. So if you're into something besides monitors or you want to check something out and honestly just get ideas from some other keepers, longtime keepers, whether it's snakes, lizards, turtles, they've been through so many different experiences that a lot of times you can cross over between the information that's out there and use it for your purposes. But to lead you in that direction, go check out Morelia Python Radio, MoreliaPythonRadio.com. Also, if there's any questions you have about the different shows, you can reach them at info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com for their email. Also, go ahead and give them a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and the YouTube channel, all at MPR Network, is what you'll type in to find them there, and give them a follow and get kind of plugged into all the different information that's out there. Even if you just like one podcast, it won't be long before you're looking into something else or something else piques your interest. Or some of these keepers, they keep a multitude of stuff. So, yeah, go check them out, guys. And again, Khai, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook and Instagram. You should be able to type in my name, KHAIPHAN, to find me on both. But on Instagram, it might be a little bit more tricky. Um, it's a big underscore lizard 103. And then you can also find me on YouTube under Mangrove Mecca. That's mangrove and then space Mecca. There, I have some videos on there, behavioral stuff, and just funny stuff as well, as far as like what I have going on. But I share a lot on my Facebook, and I'm much more responsive on there as well. So,
Good stuff.
and then you?
Yeah, you can find me at origins underscore reptile on Instagram and origins reptile on Facebook. And of course, right here, you can find us both on the Monitor Keeping podcast. Um, in the future, there might be some other stuff. Might give more insight, maybe do a few walkthroughs. My buddy Riley for Riley's Reptiles did kind of a little quick video of the warehouse. So if you want to go check that out, you can go on to Riley's Reptiles on YouTube and check out some of his videos. Mine will be on there with some of my animals. So maybe a little more of that in 2022, but we'll see how it goes. Life is busy enough as it is. So
Yeah, yeah, it's just so busy. We want to get on to do these a lot more often, but honestly, it's a quite a few, hurdles. Not only do we got normal lives and everything like that, we have all the animals. And we're in our collections every day,
yeah,
multiple times a day, and so finding time to record on top of everybody else is a little tricky. But hopefully, we can get everybody that wants to record with us, and then even ourselves in a little bit more this year.
yep.
Um, yeah.
All right, guys. Till next time.